You're watching News in Depth on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. Well, it appears to be a done deal. The Czech Republic is set for a new government made up of the populist ANO party, the Eurosceptic Motorists, the far-right SPD. The three political forces signed off on a coalition deal on Monday, likely making billionaire businessman Andrej Babiš the country's next Prime Minister. Now, TVP World's Europe editor Marcin Zabudowski is with me in the studio to break it all down. But first, Marcin, I want to go live to Prague, where our correspondent Andrew Sweeney is standing by. So good evening, Andrew. What is the latest on the ground?
Good evening, Aaron. Well, I mean, it is something of a done deal. After the election results were announced, it was pretty clear that Andrej Babiš would be forced to go into an agreement with the Motorists and the SPD to get a governing coalition. Certainly, it has come as a shock to some people. The presence of Tomio Okamura, the leader of the SPD in government and as now the Speaker of the Czech Parliament, is unpalatable to many, given that he has actually supported in the past a referendum on leaving the EU and on leaving NATO and on building closer ties with Russia. This is obviously going to come at the expense of some relations with Ukraine as well. The Czech Republic has been a consistent supporter of that country in its struggle against Russia's invasion. And during the election, anti-Ukrainian sentiment was particularly profound. Czech Republic being the country in the EU with the highest per capita number of refugees from Ukraine taking in. Now, the next stage moves on to the formation of the government, and that comes with its own controversies as well.
So, Andrew, what timeline are we looking at here? I mean, will this government hit the ground running immediately? Are there a couple of weeks in between?
It's going to be a couple of weeks. I mean, Andrej Babiš has already said he expects the government to be formed in December. Just because they have a coalition doesn't mean that they have a government. The ministers have to be nominated by this coalition and then approved by Czech President Péter Pavel. One of these nominees for foreign minister, a man called Filip Turek from a motorist, has already caused a huge amount of controversy. His social media posts are littered with all sorts of racist and sexist comments, anti-Ziganist comments, and even references to support for the Nazis. So to say that he's controversial would be something of an understatement. The feeling on the ground really is that the Babiš is going to try and take his time to weed out some of these controversial issues. I spoke with the nominee for the health minister today, MP Adam Wojtek, and he told me much of the same thing, that they're going to take their time and get this right. So while there's still going to be some controversy about individual candidates as part of that process, overall I think that the Czech government will end up being pretty much what Babiš wants.
Andrew Sweeney in Prague, thank you for joining us on News in Depth so much. And good evening.
Good evening, Aaron.
So, Andrew, they're saying, look, this coalition does not necessarily mean a government. How do you expect the next few weeks to play out?
Well, the most important thing is that Andrej Babiš and his party ANO, and two parties that we just discussed, so the Motorists and the Direct Democracy far-right party, that they have majority in the parliament. The parliament in the Czech Republic is 200 people, and these three parties, they come together to control 108 seats. So even if they don't enter into the coalition with the Andrej Babiš's ANO party, they are very likely to support him during the crucial voting. So I think that, yes, I mean, he's got a assured support at this point in time, whether it's going to be a formal coalition or whether all the ministers will be actually accepted and passed by and agreed upon by President Pavel. That's another matter.
So you expect him to be the next Prime Minister?
Yes, he will be next Prime Minister.
What about some of those other appointments, again, that Andrew mentioned, like Mr. Turek? I mean, is this an opportunity for both Babiš, perhaps Péter Pavel, to have his say to kind of weed out those very, very controversial potential appointments?
Yeah, indeed, I think that's a candidate of the Motorist Party. They sort of slightly strange bunch of politicians who are gelled together by their love for combustion engines and roaring cars.
Hence motorists.
So I don't expect the party to actually, survive as a political construct for the next 4 or 5 years. At this point in time, right now, today, their support is needed. But there are some very unsavory characters in this party, including the person that you mentioned, Mr. Turek, known for his neo-Nazi sympathies. He will be put forward by the party as a candidate. Andrej Babiš will present it to president. President has already said, I will not accept this guy. And I don't think that Mr. Babiš will be crying about it. He's got a good excuse by turning back to motorists and say, you see, I tried.
So Andrej Babiš, he made some comments to media just in recent days. I want to play that for you now.
This coalition was formed as a result of democratic elections, and it was actually our voters who determined the coalition. If I remember correctly, there were 2,753,000 of them, and we won 108 seats. Well, the common goal of this coalition in the elections was to replace the government, the existing government. And that is what united us, even though there may have been some differences in the programs, but the important thing is that we reached the agreement.
So Andrej Babiš, they're talking about the fact that they got a mandate, this coalition, populist, Eurosceptic, far right. I mean, what does that mean if we talk about really cold, hard impacts for the rest of Europe, for Brussels? What does that mean for the European Union, for NATO, particularly for the Czech Republic's positions on these institutions?
Well, it's going to be some watering down of the pro-Western agenda that the former government was actually part of the avant-garde in Europe. Let's just remind everybody about the ammunition initiative, whereby it was the Czech government, supported by President Petr Pavel, who spearheaded the initiative to provide Ukraine with necessary ammunition. As well, it was mentioned in your report that Czech Republic took upon accepted a very high number of Ukrainian refugees, which were welcome in the country. I think Czech Republic was the first country to provide Ukraine with tanks. Post-Soviet, not perhaps the best, but nonetheless, they were the first who broke a certain taboo, saying, yes, we would be sending tanks to Ukraine. So they were very pro-Ukrainian and quite anti-Russian. And I think that we cannot expect that to continue from the current government of Andrej Babiš. But having said that, Andrej Babiš is not Viktor Orbán and he's not Robert Fico. There will be some watering down. The support for Ukraine will be smaller, but it would not change into pro-Russian agenda or something.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because some are concerned that the Czech Republic has another Viktor Orbán or Robert Fico running the show, but others say he's a more pragmatic operator, Andrej Babiš. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, I would. I think that Mr. Babiš is known first and foremost for being an opportunist.
So is that what drives him? I mean, is that...
So that's indeed what drives him. He does not have a coherent ideology. He switches from the, free market positions to let's support underprivileged in the country with social handouts, depending on what he needs for the election or re-election. So people have a really hard time for placing him ideologically. In the past, his party belonged to the liberal grouping in the European Parliament, ALDE. Today, it belongs to the same grouping as Viktor Orbán's party. And it's really difficult to say where this party belongs ideologically beyond the very fact that they want to win election and they are pretty effective with that.
You mentioned the ammunition initiative. Do you think that will continue in its current form?
I don't think that and he already said that, I would not be stopping anything. I would not be objecting to the existing initiatives, but I may not be initiating new things, yeah? So he would not want to get...
It's a stalemate, effectively. He sort of sits there and says, I'm sitting in the middle, I'm not taking a view. All
very much depends also on what he needs certain things for. Like, for example, he said that he's very much in favor of strengthening cooperation with Germany. Yeah, so he wants to have a closer relationship with Germany, which suggests a pro-Western agenda, doing some business with Germany probably that his personal business could benefit from. He's known for that. So it's difficult to see a guy like that who is driven by business logic to adopt a kind of a radical populist left-wing agenda.
What about any hopes that the Czech Republic might have to bring in the euro?
Well, Andrej Babiš said that he would be in favor. Currently he's against, but he would be in favor when Czech Republic has a balanced budget. And that can happen, really, because the Czech Republic has a quite fiscally conservative, healthy position. Its budget is close from being balanced. It has been close for some time. So, and the Czech public opinion is not against that. So it may happen that Andrej Babiš would see, well, let's cut the interest rate, for example, before the next election. So you have lower interest rates when you adopt the euro, and it gives immediate boost to the economy. So I think he might just want to do that trick.
Opportunist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to ask about how he will then navigate the relationship with Viktor Orbán and Robert Fico. If he's not one of them, how will he navigate that to kind of, he'll want to keep them on side, but he also won't want to look like someone that is in with their camp? Because Viktor Orbán has even suggested that he wants to form some kind of a bloc within the EU, which Babis has already said not so keen on.
He said Viktor Orbán said that he wants to revitalize the Visegrad Group. Visegrad Group consisting of Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia and Hungary, that was formed in 1991, with the objective there being to coordinate the policies in joining the EU and joining the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, NATO. These days, 3 out of these 4 countries have more or less populist governments. But the current Hungarian government has traveled really long way from being part of this pro-Western camp into becoming effectively an agent of Russian influence inside the European Union and NATO. And there are very serious worries at this point in time whether Hungary is still even part of the West. Now, Slovaks are kind of, yes, well, we will go with whoever offers us a better deal. And Czechs at this point in time, with the population that they have, with the policies that they had towards Ukraine, I would not expect them to be on the same wavelength as Viktor Orbán. It's too costly. Andrej Babiš does not need that. He will be cautious, I think.
You mentioned Hungary there, and you mentioned the fact that there's a worry about Hungary really, I guess, moving to the east. While I have you, let's talk about Hungary, because a new poll has just dropped and Hungary's main opposition party, TISA, is now in the lead with 51% support. That puts them way ahead of Viktor Orbán's party, which is sitting at 36%. I mean, are we seeing potentially the first in a long time real challenge to Viktor Orbán's, well, rule?
Well, it is a real challenge, and the reason for that is that the challenge does not come from the liberal, left-wing, progressive opposition, but the challenge comes from a guy who used to be a very close associate of Mr. Orbán, who comes from the same political camp, who is conservative, who shares Viktor Orbán's views on things like migration, LGBT, even Ukraine to some extent, and so on. But he proposes to the electorate, I would be like Viktor Orbán, but I'm not corrupted and I'm against corruption, and also I'm not so keen to be very close with Russia. So it's like Fidesz minus these 2 factors. Fidesz minus corruption and Fidesz minus close ties with Russia.
So how much of that impact will actually be felt in terms of Hungary's position on, for example, Ukraine or within the EU structure? Do you think there would be a difference?
Well, at this point in time, Mr. Péter Magyar has to win the election. And the Hungarian population is subjected to years of manipulation in the public sphere, with the media being effectively almost absolutely under the control of Viktor Orbán. That means that there is a certain narrative that Péter Magyar has to be sensitive towards. So meaning that he cannot really start adopting, for example, pro-Ukrainian position, even if he believed in that, or he cannot adopt a very anti-Russian position, because the Hungarian population at this point in time would not be with him. It seems like that the propaganda that Viktor Orbán has been adopting there was very effective and effectively changed the minds and hearts of Hungarians to quite considerable extent. And Péter Magyar needs to take account of that.
So I guess what you're saying is Viktor Orbán still holds a lot of sway.
Yes.
I mean, it seems to me that in Hungary, the only potential way for there to be a new leader is, as you mentioned before, by voting for a Viktor Orbán minus 2 points, corruption and links to Russia.
Plus, Mr. Magyar he has a certain amount of, a strong amount of credibility in Hungary, because he's a known conservative. He comes from conservative family, very conservative family apparently. His views are not particularly progressive, as I have already mentioned. And he knows how the Fidesz works in the countryside. And that is countryside, provinces, countryside, anything outside of Budapest, where the fate of this election and the future of Hungary will be determined. But there is a very real worry in Hungary that this election process will not be fair. And even some people are saying that this election process would not be free. So if Viktor Orbán indeed moves, the goalposts of, fairness, and moves towards the field of falsification and manipulation of the electoral process, then of course it's nothing close to level playing field.
This election, which is set down for next year, will also, of course, impact Poland. There's been a fair bit of tension between Warsaw and Budapest, particularly in recent months. I want to play you an exchange between Radosław Sikorski and his Hungarian counterpart, this one on the platform X. Let's have a look.
Is Radosław Sikorski talking about the independent court, which, on Donald Tusk's orders, refused to extradite the terrorists who blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline?
Peter, I'm proud of the Polish court which ruled that sabotaging an invader is no crime. Moreover, I hope your brave compatriot Major Magyar finally succeeds in knocking out the oil pipeline that feeds Putin's war machine, and you get your oil via Croatia.
So they don't like each other, do they?
I don't have inside knowledge of their personal relationship, but
the political relationship at the moment seems strange,
but
right?
Political relationship seems strained, and it is clear that Poland, especially the foreign minister Sikorski, positions Poland as a leader of a kind of a pro-Western voice inside Central Europe. That's the added value that he believes that Poland brings into the European Union and NATO, that it has this communist past, but it's firmly in the pro-Western, pro-European camp. And it's a known fact that under the leadership of Viktor Orbán, Hungary has been becoming progressively pro-Russian, to the point that when I was in Budapest last week and spoke with several experts and analysts there, they were saying that Russia would be very, very invested in this relationship and is not prepared to let Hungary be governed by anybody else than Viktor Orbán. So they expect a direct Russian interference in this relationship, in this election.
TVP World Europe editor Marcin Zabudowski, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And that's all for news in depth. Do stay with us here on TVP World for more. I'm Aaron Darman. Goodbye for now.